Hey everybody, this is Deb with Read the Writer, and this is going to be the next tutorial in my Scrivener tutorial series for basic beginners. Okay, this is very basic stuff. If you've been using Scrivener for a while, this probably is not something you need to know, but if you're new to Scrivener, sometimes it can be intimidating, and I want to take the fear out of that because it's a great program to use if you're a writer. And once you get to understand how Scrivener works, you probably will understand some of the other dedicated writing programs out there. And there are some free ones that you can get too. So this is just the one that I choose. I think for the price, it is fantastic for what it does. If you didn't do the first tutorial with me, but you have a novel that you want to import into Scrivener, then you just start with fiction and click on novel. You'll have to make sure that you put a title down here and browse to put it in the right folder on your hard drive. Okay, so that's the first step. If you did do the tutorial with me, you can go down here to Open Recent. And the Open Recent will give you a list of all the projects that you've been working on. Now you can see I already have a few here that I've been working on. And the one that I did the other day was testing. So all I have to do is choose that, and then it'll come up. So this is what it'll look like. Now yours may be in a different place because the beauty about this program is wherever you left off, that's where you will come back to when you open it up again. So nice thing. So if you were on this scene, it'll have that. Wherever you were when you shut down the program, this is where you will be. So if you did the same thing as I did and followed along with me when I was doing the testing, then wherever you were, that's what yours is going to look like. But it doesn't really matter. Now I want to take just a moment and talk about the binder here. The binder is essentially a filing cabinet, and it has different drawers in it, and then inside those drawers we have folders, and inside the folders we have documents. And so that's what we have going on here. The manuscript is like a drawer. Underneath it you have a folder called Chapter 1, a folder called Chapter 2. Inside Chapter 1, that folder, you have these three documents: Scene, Scene 2, and Scene 3. Okay, so you have all of those going on there. And under this particular folder, you have one document, Scene 1 of Chapter 2. So that's how it's put together. Now the manuscript is a main folder, the research is a main folder, and the trash is kind of a main folder, but those we'll talk about in future videos. Right now we're focusing mostly on the manuscript folder, and in that folder you really can deal with only certain types of documents. You can't have PDFs in there, but you can have PDFs in the research folder. The research folder is more flexible in what kinds of documents you can have in there. The manuscript folder is really for the documents, and for photos, you can put photos in there. So, and they do have like characters, they've got that listed. But again, I will show you some of those in future videos. Right now, let's focus just on importing this document that you already have. I'm assuming with this particular video that you already have a novel you've been working on, and you probably have worked on it in like Microsoft Word or something similar. Well, I have one that I was doing, and I put together this little example one that I could use. It's called The Lonely Little Squirrel, and I have chapter, and I have different scene breaks, and this is what's going to be very important. Before we import it, you need to make sure you have scene breaks, and how you break those scenes will be up to you what character you use. Some people like to use 3 asterisks, some people like to use 3 hashtags, some people use 1, and so it's up to you what you're using, but there needs to be something there that separates the scenes, some type of different distinct character that you can use. That's what the Scrivener program is going to look for when we import it. What we're going to do is I'm going to get rid of all of these. Okay, all of these things that we worked on, I'm going to get rid of those, and there are a couple ways we can do it. This is the trash folder. You can just move them to trash that way, and now it's all down in the trash, and we don't need to worry about them. Our manuscript now has nothing underneath it. So we need to start putting things in there. Well, how do we do that? Go to File, go down to Import. Now you can just import files, but it's better if you have a long manuscript to use that hashtag that you saw in the other one. That's going to help us out. So I'm going to choose Import and Split. Okay, then I need to find my file, and I have The Lonely Little Squirrel right here. There's the one. And I open that up, and then this is the character. Now, if it's 3 hashtags, make sure you put 3. If it's 3 asterisks, put 3. Whatever you use to indicate the scene break, that's what you need to put here. Okay? And so once you have that, then you click OK. Now, look, suddenly we have the lonely little squirrel, and it's broken into these different scenes. Now, there is a little glitch. As you notice here, chapter 3 is attached to this other one. Why? Because there wasn't a hashtag in front of it. And so you can go through and do the hashtag, but it could end up being rather tedious. Or you can do this. You just put your cursor at the beginning of wherever you want the split. Go to Documents, Split, at Selection, and there you go. Now it's a separate one. So we can do that on all of them. This one, it was chapter 1, it's okay. Scene 2 of chapter 1 is fine. Scene 3, again, we've got the same thing going on. So we go to Documents, we go to Split, at Selection, or you can use the Control K. That's fine too. And there we have it. And you'll notice that this one has a -1. This one has no -1. And so that when it splits a scene, it uses the original title. But of course you can change those, because remember, you just double click over here and you can say, this is chapter 2. And you have that. It's actually scene 1. So we want to say scene 1 of chapter 2. Okay, so, and this one is technically not the lonely little squirrel. This one is really scene 1 of chapter 1, right? Scene 1 of chapter 1. Okay, so now we have scene 1 of chapter 1, scene 2 of chapter 1, scene 3 of chapter 1, scene 1 of chapter 2, scene 2 of chapter 2, scene 3 of chapter 2, chapter 3, so we've got to change that one. We change it to scene 1 of chapter 3. We have scene 2 of chapter 3, and look what happened here. Chapter 4, we've got to do the same thing. We put our cursor at the beginning where we want it to split. Go to Documents, Split, at Selection, and there we go. Now that one we can call scene, if I can spell scene, 1 of chapter 4. And then we have scene 2 of chapter 4 is the last one. Okay? So now we have all of our scenes. But if you look at this, it's a little messy, right? We need to have some folders to put them in, because this is like opening that file drawer, the manuscript file drawer, and having just a bunch of papers laying in there. We need the folders to help separate the papers. And so in order to do that, remember what we do. We go up, click on your manuscript. That's probably the best place to start. Go to New Folder, or again, you can hold down the Control, Shift, and N, and that'll make a new folder. There's also down here a way to make a new folder. You can make a new text or a new folder down here. So if you click on that, it will give you a folder. And the folder we want to call Chapter, I can't type, Chapter 1. And then we need another folder, which we're going to call Chapter 2. We need 4 folders altogether. So again, you can do it that way. You can come up here and do a folder this way. There are different ways to do it, whatever you find most convenient. And that's one thing about this. There's usually more than one way to do things. So if you want to go up here and make a new folder, you can. Or if you go down here and use the folder one, you can do that too. Or use the hotkeys. Chapter 4. Okay. So now we have our folders. Now see, it has a little different icon. These are the documents. These are the folders. So now we need to put all of our documents into the proper folders. So we have scene 1, 2, and 3. Now, if you don't know how to do that, you select the first one that you want in a list. You hold down the Shift button and click on the last one, and it'll highlight everything in between. So we just drag those down. Once we select them, we drag them down and we toss them in chapter 1, and now here they are. So now our chapter 1 is all set up. Chapter 2 has 3 scenes as well, so we highlight those, pull it down, drop it in. Again, you click on the first one, hold down the Shift, and it'll select the other one. You didn't really have to do that on this one so much, but And this is chapter 3. Forgot where I was going here. Chapter 4. We have that one. Okay, so now our manuscript has these chapters, which are the folders, and then inside the folder we have the different scenes. And now we're ready to go. We can go ahead and edit whatever we want, and we're good to go with it. You don't need the chapter number here. In fact, probably you'll want to get rid of that when you're using it eventually, and we'll talk about that when we compile, which is the output form, because you don't need it. It will put it in automatically. So anyway, there we go. Now we have our document that we already had. We've got it in here. It's all ready to go. If we need to edit, if you need to move things around, you can do that. If you want to relabel the scenes, you can do that too. Because I don't usually use scene 1 or anything like that. I say, well, this is the one where the little squirrel, George is the name of the squirrel. George is lonely. Okay. So that's what we're setting up there. So now I know when I go through and I'm looking for, oh yeah, George is lonely. That's what that one is. And this one is George looks for a new friend. And there. Now we have it over here in our binder. We can do this. So it's, and I can see at a glance what's in that particular scene. But again, it's customizable. You can do it however you want. So there we go. Now we've imported a document and we can work on our document. We've got it all ready for us to continue writing, to add more chapters. Again, if you're adding another chapter, just go ahead and add a chapter. You can actually click just about anywhere over here because you can move them around so easily. And you just click new folder, or you go down here. One of these is the text and the other one is the folder. And you just click on it and you've got a new chapter. So chapter, there you go. And inside the chapter, you need to put text documents. So a new text document, and this is going to be George meets Raquel. There. So now we have this and we can start writing about George meeting Raquel. There we go. That's it. It's very easy to import. There is a little bit of work you have to do to get it all like you want it over here. But there you go. It's a lot easier than copying and pasting, that's for sure. Although you can do that if you really want to. That's fine. But anyway, that's what I've got for you on this one. And I'll have future videos coming up soon. Thanks for stopping by, and I'll see y'all later.